This camera you could buy in fully working condition, good condition, for $1,400 in my area. And if you convert that to US dollars, it is 1,000 period US dollars. And that's before negotiation. Let's first talk about the specs of this thing, and then I'll share some of the results you can get out of this thing. While I was here in Slovakia, I took it around, took a bunch of photos, and honestly, I was really impressed. So first of all, you've got a 30 megapixel sensor in here, which is absolutely amazing. I mean, I've said this before, you don't really need more than like literally 5 megapixels. I mean, most of the time when you're taking photos, they're gonna end up on social media, and those photos are pretty much 1080p. 30 megapixels is overkill, and honestly, most people are good with just 12. The Sony a7 IV, which came out in October of 2021, this came out in 2016, has a 33 megapixel sensor. So just from that standpoint, you're chilling. You've got 7 frames per second of continuous burst shooting. I played around with this and I'll share some of the results I got out of it too. You've got the dual pixel autofocus system inside of the camera sensor, but you've also got, through the viewfinder, 61 autofocus points, which is pretty good, but I would say that's the biggest downfall of this camera, because mirrorless cameras nowadays have like eye tracking autofocus and it covers the whole sensor and it's like crazy. It's kind of fixed to the area where the focus points are. Still, the focusing system is really good. It's just, if I had to pick a point where it's showing its age, that would probably be the only place where it is. For the kind of work that I do, this focusing system is more than enough for what I need. I've done a ton of shoots with the Canon 70D professional paid work, and it's been a-okay. So this shoots 4K DCI video, which is actually insane. It actually shoots more pixels than 4K. It's like slightly wider. So if you want to crop in on the edges just a little bit, you have that freedom. Insane. Like, not even the Sony a7R V, which I use on a daily basis, that doesn't have DCI 4K. So it's looking pretty good for this camera. Built-in GPS, yes, when you take a photo, it's geotagged. Like, what Canon? You're spoiling us. Of course, you've got your full frame sensor. You've got your top LCD screen over here, which I miss very dearly. I love this thing on the Canon 70D that I use. I always use this little display up here, especially real estate photography. You just glance down at it, you see your settings, you see which one it's shooting when you do bracketing. Man, why doesn't Sony include the top LCD? On the back of the camera here, you have a display. This display is touchscreen, but it is fixed, so you can't articulate it out or anything like that. Some people, that's a big drawback. I personally do miss it just a little bit, that I can't move it out, but you know what? This camera feels extremely solid. Like, because this display doesn't move, I feel like if I drop this from like standing height 3 times, it would work perfectly. Whereas I know if I drop my Sony a7R V, there would be serious problems. In general, just the entire build quality of this camera, the seals over the ports, it feels like it was built like a tank. Like, it is weather sealed, so it should be okay for like rain and that kind of thing. But like, I feel like this thing would be okay in a hurricane and you would still be like, able to use it. Anyways, boring specs out of the way, let's take a look at some of the results that you can get out of this camera. And I'll talk a little bit about how, it worked for me. Photos.
Baby, unforgettable touch. Baby, I need your kisses. Baby, I need your touch, Baby, I need kisses.
Pretty good results, I would say. I was really pleased with what came out of this camera. I mean, it was a pleasure to use this camera because it's so like bulky and it has a substantial grip and everything. I feel like I'm holding like a solid piece of equipment. And maybe because of that, I felt more inspired. I felt like important. So it was a pleasure to use, but let's talk about some of the challenges that I've had. So first of all, the dog running shot, that is actually my grandma's dog, Cece. She is absolutely adorable. I love Cece, but she can get extremely hyper. So she was running all over the place, like top speed, like literally at least 100 kilometers an hour. when I was trying to keep her in focus as she was running towards me, I had quite the challenge. I mean, I kept the camera in AI servo autofocus mode, and it did track her. So some of the shots were in focus, but a lot of them, and like a lot, were out of focus, which I know that if I shot it with the Sony a7R5, which is a lot more expensive, and you can't really, like, the used prices haven't really come down on that one yet. But I know if I shot with that, which is the latest camera technology, most of the shots would have been in focus. With this camera, shooting sports, that kind of things, it might be a little bit more difficult just because of the autofocus system. However, you can still shoot sports and you can still get usable results that you get paid big money for, no problem. 100% doable. In fact, people have used this camera for shooting sport events, that kind of thing in the past, and made money with it. So you will have no problem doing that, even nowadays. Also, things like events, people think that you need to have like the craziest autofocus. You don't need crazy autofocus for events. I have shot a huge paid event with the Canon 70D and it's been a-okay. And that camera came out in 2013 and I shot with it at the event literally just a couple of months ago. So basically what I'm going at is, while sport photography may be a little bit more frustrating, a little bit more difficult, event photography, the autofocus will be more than enough to keep up. Like, you're not going to have constantly people running back and forth. And not to mention for sport, they're not usually running towards you either. That's the most difficult situation for an autofocus system. Most of the time, if you're shooting sport, they're running across, maybe a little bit towards you, but it's not a situation where they are coming towards you, like directly towards you. Any other kind of photography, this camera has an autofocus system which is going to be more than enough to be able to keep up with what you're shooting. Next challenge has to do more with the fact that this is a DSLR camera, then a mirrorless camera. When looking in the viewfinder at night and doing manual focus, I love having the ability to zoom in like inside of the viewfinder and see that what you have is in focus, and like it like crops in on the image and you get to perfectly dial in the focus, and then you get to like uncrop. This doesn't have that, but what you get to do is you get to put it on your LCD screen. You go into live view mode. You can zoom in, grab the focus that way. It worked perfectly as an alternative, but I'm used to doing it with the viewfinder, so I kind of like that, and I kind of miss that just a little bit. Besides that, it was an absolute pleasure, and I really enjoyed using the camera. Now, I haven't really done a video test on this camera. I'm mainly focusing on images in this video, but I was extremely, extremely impressed with the images. The image quality rivals that of modern cameras today, like the Sony a7 IV. While the Sony a7 IV, sure, it does have slightly better dynamic range, better high ISO performance, you now have access to things like AI tools in Lightroom to do AI denoise, and it looks fabulous. And while editing the photos in Lightroom, if it's pretty like properly exposed, you're not gonna have a problem with dynamic range, because people have professionally used this camera in 2016 and they didn't have a problem with dynamic range. So if it worked back then to be used in a professional setting, it's still gonna work today, because if the image looks good, that's all that counts. Now, last thing I wanted to add in, because this is a DSLR from Canon with the EF mount, it is going to have much cheaper lenses. So not only is the body cheaper at $1,000 US, the lenses that you're gonna get too are way, way cheaper than that of any mirrorless camera system now, because this mount has existed for so long. Like, you're gonna be able to get this nifty 50 lens for like $100 easy. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new. I hope you now consider this camera as a little option to your kit. Maybe if you're looking to switch from APS-C to full frame, this will be a good option for you. If you're looking at cameras in general to purchase, I recommend you check out this video right over here or over here. I always mix things up. I talk about the Canon 70D and share whether it is a good option as well. And that one's going to be a lot cheaper than this camera and have pretty good results too. Now, obviously, if I had to compare the two cameras, this camera is better in most regards. However, that camera does have some benefits like a flip out screen and a smaller overall body. Do check it out. Also, if you enjoyed this video, do consider subscribing, leaving a like, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.